Hello and welcome to Business Reporter's Improving Business Performance campaign. I'm Alistair Greener. COVID-19 has upended many industries, but few have suffered as badly as the events industry. In 2020, thousands of major conferences, trade shows, and even the Olympics were either postponed or cancelled altogether. But just as any other major crisis in our history, COVID-19 has bred innovation at a major scale. And today, digital technologies enable event organisers to connect not thousands but millions of people across several continents and provide interactive engagement real time. Today we're talking to Cathy Song Novelli from Hubilo, a company that powers exceptional hybrid experiences worldwide. What are the most important changes that events organisers have faced during and after the pandemic?
Yes, they faced quite a lot. First and foremost, I would say there are two significant changes that they faced. One was that they saw an absolute 180 in what their job encompassed. And second is that it made their job nearly impossible to sort of predict and build strategy and plans against. Let me talk first about how their role shifted. Event organizers are often, I coin them half OCD extraordinaire and half creative geniuses. And overnight, they had to also become technologists. And that was not the core of the DNA of what they were great at. And so their jobs absolutely shifted. And with that, a lot of event organizers actually went straight into what they knew of virtual or digital, which meant webinars, which aren't the most exciting or interesting event experiences. And so I think it was a natural and understandable default, but it was sort of a pain point that I think the event industry felt in the beginning of the pandemic is they saw a lot of boring events. But I think on the flip side of that, they've actually learned a ton and learned how to make it more interesting, how to bring the essence of an event experience into the virtual realm. But on a more macro level, what's also very much changed for event organizers during the time of the pandemic, and I think still, as the world still faces a lot of uncertainty about what regions are safe to have in-person event activations within, is that they're at a dead stop with building out their event strategy. They don't know how much should be virtual, how much should be hybrid, if they should be doing exclusive in-person at all, anywhere. And so it's a really challenging time to really figure out what the perfect mix is. And that's why a lot of Hubilo's customers are leaning much more toward the safer option, which is going mostly virtual, and then interjecting little bits of hybrid with maybe small watch parties and doing what they can safely. But the whole industry has just completely flipped, and I think the industry is doing everything that they can to adapt as fast as possible, but it hasn't always been that easy.
You talked there a lot about the how things have been, and the uncertainty. So how have these changes impacted event organisers and their businesses? I mean, has it all been about loss, or have there been some new opportunities as well?
In the beginning, as I mentioned, I think that there was certainly loss that was seen and felt, and a lot of stress that was felt and in some cases continues to be felt. However, I would say that the opportunities greatly outweigh the losses. Two major areas in which the opportunities are the greatest are one in the greater reach that events are able to yield. They can host a lot more attendees, but second, also in the data. Let me talk first about the reach, because the reach I think is the most exciting. one of the biggest brands in the world, one of the biggest technology brands in the world, generally hosts one of their events every year. They would spend nearly $50 million to host 6,000 people. And when the pandemic hit, they saw 22 million attendees from across the world attend. And I don't think that is anything, any kind of reach that any business will ever want to walk away from again.
Well, as you said, communication through online channels has absolutely skyrocketed through the pandemic, but many people are already fed up with online conference calls. So how can virtual events offer a better experience and really engage crowds?
Yeah, I'm going to be completely honest. I think that we are just starting out our journey here. As I mentioned earlier, when we first pivoted to virtual, I think the natural inclination for event organizers was to pivot toward webinars, which is very much me talking at you and you just sitting there. And I think where we are now is realizing there's an opportunity to bring the in-person wow experience virtually. And there's a lot of creative ways to do that through engagement features that platforms offer and gamification and contests. Because these platforms are built, and Hubilo especially is built to have a lot of one-to-one interaction with the host, there's a lot of opportunity to create real meaningful engagement and events that don't feel like webinars, but they feel like amazing experiences.
So tell us about Hubilo. What do you do to enable exceptional hybrid events?
Yes, so I'll start first with the fact that Hubilo has a great advantage in the fact that they started 5 years before the pandemic as a technology solution to better engage in-person attendee engagement. And so they took that DNA and expertise in event engagement and they turned that into a virtual platform. So I think the fact that we started in person really made it easy to transition not only to virtual but to hybrid, because we've got sort of that understanding of the secret sauce that's going to engage people virtually as well as in person. And so the real key now for us as an industry, and specifically Hubilo, is to bridge that experience beautifully. And Hubilo does this by making sure that the host experience is truly immersive so that the people who are watching from home feel like they are watching in person. And also that all of the attendees walk away feeling like they experienced the same event, so that they are all experiencing the same chat, the same networking, the same sort of opportunities to engage on a macro as well as micro basis, whether it be through happy hours and champagne being delivered to your house or actually in person going to booths, but making sure that every attendee really walks away with the same experience. And that is the core to what Hubilo ensures is activated at every event.
Could you give us a taste of what a Hubilo powered hybrid event actually looks like?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Let's take a look. As you can see within our experience, we've got extremely easy navigation to ensure that attendees know where to go and for what. We also have this fantastic side panel that they can engage with, chat with other attendees and speakers, engage with contests and polls. And what's fantastic is we've got the opportunity for attendees to engage in real time with the hosts and speak and conversate back and forth. And we've got engaging contests and polls that the speakers can inject into their experience to further get attendees to lean in. And we've got really dynamic booths and lounges that make you feel like you are there in person meeting with folks instead of just another conference. And finally, we've got these great studio setups around the world that can record speakers across the globe but put them all on one unified stage. All of these little features and experiences really ensure that attendees are experiencing the most immersive, the most dynamic experience. And at the end of the day, what really sets us apart is the fact that, this isn't another boring video conference. It's actually an experience that engages at all levels.
So is Hubilo a tech company or are you a service company?
Yes, we are definitely a technology company. However, what differentiates us is our service. So, we are a technology company, but what differentiates our technology is not only the fact that we've got the industry's largest suite of engagement features, but it is the fact that we have got a world-class white glove client experiences team that is there in the green room in real time with event organizers. Because if you've ever hosted an event, I've hosted hundreds. The last thing that you can risk is having something go wrong and then having to call someone or having to actually Slack someone and wait minutes on end for them to respond and then resolve the problem. Especially what could go wrong there is you as an event organizer are not a technologist and you may explain it incorrectly. So you're wasting a lot of time. But the service that we have is there by your side in the green room, in the virtual green room, there with you to immediately address the challenges. So to me, as an event organizer, it is half technology and half service because things go wrong. They go wrong all the time with technology, but having someone there in real time is what enables that technology to activate excellence every time.
We started this interview talking about the pandemic, and now looking to post-pandemic, we often use the term going back to normal. Do you think the events industry will ever actually do that?
I don't. I think we're looking at a new normal. And, that new normal, what used to be 80-20, with 80% being in person and 20% being virtual, has essentially flipped. And I think we're going to see 20% in person and 80% really being virtual and hybrid whenever it can be. And I think there are two quick reasons why that is. One is that the world has changed. And second is that you've got all of the opportunities that we've discussed before. So first, if we're talking about the world changing, I think people's sort of tolerance for traveling has changed. The definition of work-life balance has changed, and you just don't see people wanting to travel as much for events. And second, from the business perspective, you've got all of those opportunities that we discussed before, the greater reach, the greater data, that I think has changed businesses' desires to really want to spend all that money for all of the in-person when they've got so much more business opportunity by going virtual and hybrid. So yeah, I think we're looking at a new normal for the future.